there's a runaway trolley coming down the track. Ahead of it, 5 people are tied to the rails. They can't move. In a few seconds, the trolley reaches them and they die. But you're standing next to a lever. Pull it and the trolley switches onto a side track. The 5 are saved, except there's one person tied to that side track. Pull the lever and he dies instead. Do nothing and 5 die. Act and 1 dies by your hand. You have about 5 seconds. What do you do? Most people, once they stop squirming, say they'd pull it. 5 lives for 1. The math is obvious. But here's the strange part. Change one small detail in this story, keep the numbers exactly the same, 5 saved, 1 dead, and almost everyone flips their answer. They go from, of course I'd do it, to, I could never. Same lives, same math, opposite decision. This is the trolley problem. And it was never really about the trolley. It's a flashlight pointed into your own head, lighting up a fight you didn't know was happening in there between 2 completely different versions of you. The trolley didn't start as an internet meme, it started as a serious philosophical trap. In 1967, a British philosopher named Philippa Foot was thinking about a hard question. When is it acceptable to harm one person in order to help others? To sharpen it, she sketched a scenario, a runaway tram, a driver who can steer it toward 1 workman instead of 5. Years later, another philosopher, Judith Jarvis Thomson, refined it into the version you just heard. Not a driver, but a bystander at a lever. You. And when you put that version to people, thousands of them, across decades of studies, the answer is remarkably consistent. Around 90% say they would pull the lever. Divert the trolley, kill 1, save 5. It feels almost mathematical. Grim, but obvious. 1 is a smaller number than 5. For a while, that looked like the whole story. Humans, deep down, run the numbers. We're little moral calculators, and the calculator says, save the 5. But the philosophers weren't done, because they had a second version waiting, one designed to break the calculator. Same runaway trolley, same 5 people tied to the track ahead, same certain death in a few seconds, but this time, there's no lever. This time, you're standing on a footbridge above the track, and next to you is a very large stranger, leaning over the railing. And you understand, somehow, with complete certainty, that if you push this large man off the bridge and onto the track, his body will stop the trolley. He dies. The 5 live. The numbers are identical. 1 dies, 5 are saved. If you were a pure calculator, this should be the same answer as before. Push him, save the 5. But you won't. Almost nobody will. Put this version to people and the 90% collapses. Most flatly refuse. The very same person who would happily pull a lever to kill 1 stranger will not lay their hands on a man's back and push. So sit with that, because it's genuinely strange. In both stories, you make a choice, and because of that choice, 1 person dies and 5 people live. The spreadsheet is identical, but one feels like a tragic, acceptable decision, and the other feels like murder. Nothing changed in the math, something changed in you. The question is, what? In the early 2000s, a researcher named Joshua Green decided to stop asking people what they do and start watching their brains do it. He put people inside a brain scanner and fed them both versions, the lever and the push, while he watched which parts of the brain lit up, and the 2 versions lit up different machinery. The lever problem, pulling a switch at a distance. Impersonal leaned on the cool, calculating regions of the brain, the parts you'd use to solve a math problem or plan a route. Detached, numerical, 5 beats 1. The footbridge, putting your own hands on a living person and shoving them to their death, set off a different system entirely. The emotional alarm. The circuitry that recoils, that screams this is wrong before you finish the thought, it doesn't do arithmetic. It doesn't care that 5 is bigger than 1. It cares that you are about to use your body to end someone else's. So here's the picture Green's work paints. You are not a single moral decision maker running 1 clean program. You're 2 systems sharing 1 skull, a cold accountant who tallies lives, and a horrified witness who feels the act in your hands. On the lever, the accountant wins easily. On the bridge, the witness overrides everything. And you already live this split every day. A statistic about thousands of people suffering far away barely moves you. That's the accountant, shrugging at a number. But a single person crying in front of you wrecks you. That's the witness. Up close and personal. Same moral weight on paper. Completely different response, depending on how near it is to your hands. For decades, all of this rested on a hidden assumption nobody had tested. Every trolley study was hypothetical. Words. A scenario read off a page by someone who knew deep down that no one was actually going to die. So in 2018, a team led by Dries Boston asked the obvious uncomfortable question, would people actually do what they say they'd do? They built a real version. No imaginary strangers, real electric shocks, and live mice. Participants sat in front of 2 cages, 5 mice in one, one, a single mouse in the other, a button. In a few seconds, a genuine painful shock would hit the cage of 5 unless you press the button and sent it to the 1 instead. Same shape as the trolley, real consequences this time. And what people actually did not match what people said. In the hypothetical version, about 2/3 of people said they would press the button and shock the 1 to spare the 5. But in the real version, with a real finger on a real button, far more people acted. Around 84% pressed it. Faced with actual suffering in front of them, people became more willing to intervene, not less. Read that again, because it quietly undermines 50 years of thought experiments. What you predict you would do in a moral dilemma does not reliably predict what you actually do when it's real. The whole tradition of asking what would you do may have been measuring something other than your morality, maybe just your storytelling about yourself. Which brings us to the question everyone wants answered, and nobody can. When your cold accountant and your horrified witness disagree, which one is right? One camp says, the math is the truth. 5 lives are worth more than 1, and the emotional refusal to push the man is just a bug. An old instinct that made sense when harm meant clubbing your neighbor, and now misfires in a world of levers and numbers. On this view, the right answer is to override the feeling and save the 5 every time. The other camp says the exact opposite. That gut-level refusal to shove a man to his death isn't a glitch, it's wisdom. It's a deep guardrail, wired in over millions of years, against treating a human being as an object, a tool, a thing you use to stop a trolley. Lose that and you can rationalize almost anything. On this view, the feeling is the moral truth, and the calculator is the dangerous one. And here is the honest part. We cannot settle it. We can watch the two systems fight in a brain scanner. We can measure which one usually wins. But no scan, no study, no philosopher has been able to say which of them is your real moral self, the calm calculator, or the recoiling witness, or whether your real moral self is even a coherent thing to look for. The trolley problem is over 50 years old, and its central question is exactly as open today as the day it was written. So go back to the lever, one last time. You hand on the switch, 5 seconds on the clock. The trolley was never the point. What the experiment actually does is pull back the curtain on something you'd rather not see. That there is no single you making the call. There's a negotiation, a cold accountant totting up lives, and a horrified witness who feels every death in your hands, passing the wheel back and forth inside one skull, and which one is driving depends entirely on how close the killing is to your fingers. And the most unsettling thing isn't that you don't know what you'd do, it's this: the version of you answering right now, calm, in no danger, is not the same version who would be standing at that lever with 5 seconds left and a real life in the balance. One of them is talking, the other one would be acting, and they might not agree. So would you pull the lever? Be honest? And then ask the harder question, the one the trolley was really built to ask. The person you become in that 5 seconds, would they actually do what you just said they would? This has been Unstuck. One fact, one question you take with you.